So let's start with the prayers. So if you wish, if you can, imagine the Buddha in the space in front and feel that he's not an ordinary being like ourselves, but a being who's totally transformed his mind, made his mind free of all negative attitudes, and fully developed all positive attitudes. It's a totally pure, perfected mind. And his body isn't like our body, made of skin, flesh, blood, but made of light. So totally transparent and radiant. And feel that he's looking at each and every one of us and all other beings with infinite compassion and love, and is totally dedicated to being there for us every minute, every second, until all of us have become free of our suffering and the causes of suffering and have reached the same state that he has attained, the state of enlightenment. I really feel you're under the compassionate care and guidance of the Buddha. And there are also many other Buddhas, so you can imagine other Buddhas around Shakyamuni Buddha if you wish. Or you can just think of the Buddha as the embodiment of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all the objects of refuge. And really feel that we're taking refuge in the Buddha, his teachings, the Dharma, and the Sangha, the followers, not just for yourself, but for the sake of all living beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my good actions accumulated from beginningless time, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence, and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kandeyataya recite the mantra of the Buddha a few times. While doing that, imagine light and nectar flowing from the Buddha into yourself. You can imagine it going to every other living being as well. The light represents the Buddha's qualities, realizations, love and compassion, and so on. And imagine it flowing into you, filling your body and mind completely, and purifying all negative energy, like our delusions and negative karma and so on, and nurturing our positive potential so that it can grow ever more and eventually bring us to that same state as the Buddha, the same qualities that he has. Tayata Om Mune Mune Maha Manaye Soha. 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 So let's do a meditation for a little while. And we're going through this text, the Ornament, just looking at some of the main points covered in it. And since the Ornament for Clear Realizations explains the Bodhisattva's path, what a Bodhisattva needs to do to reach enlightenment and benefit all living beings, but it doesn't explain the actual methods for developing bodhicitta. So at the beginning of each class, I'm leading a meditation on some of the points that we meditate on in order to generate bodhicitta in our mind. And so the last couple of weeks, we've been meditating on the point, which is the first point in one of the methods for developing bodhicitta, called Equalizing and Exchanging Self for Others. And there's a meditation on this particular point of equalizing and exchanging self and others from Tricang Rinpoche, the junior tutor of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And it involves contemplating 9 points. Last week we did the first 3, and tonight we'll do the second 3 points. So again, this is to help us gain a sense of how ourselves and others are equal, and therefore it isn't right to have a biased attitude, a discriminatory attitude of only caring for ourselves or only caring for oneself and a limited number of people, my friends, my family, and then not caring about all the other people and beings. And so we need to overcome that attitude in order to develop bodhicitta and progress to enlightenment. So these next 3 points have reasons related to others. Sorry, the first 3 points had reasons related to others. And the next 3, the ones we're doing now, have reasons related to oneself. So the first one is to contemplate how everything that we have, everything we own, everything we use, everything we enjoy comes from others. We are dependent on others for all of these things. So even our body comes from our parents and our ancestors. And our clothes, our food, our house, all our furniture, everything we have and everything we enjoy, music and books and movies and so on, all of these things are dependent on others. They're produced by others. So since that is the case, is it right to ignore other people, other beings, and focus only on oneself, me, and my happiness? So we have received an immeasurable amount of kindness, benefit from other beings in this life and in our previous lives. And we will continue to receive benefit from other beings in our future lives as well, all the way up to enlightenment, Buddhahood. They also help us attain that, because to reach enlightenment, we need to cultivate love and compassion and generosity and ethics and patience and all these positive qualities in relation to other people and other beings. So they are essential for our happiness, both now and long term, all the way up to enlightenment. So in light of this, doesn't it make sense that we feel grateful to them and do what we can to repay their kindness? So the next point involves a possible objection that might come up in our mind that, yes, others have helped me, but they have also harmed me. And this is true. We do receive harm from others. We've received harm from others in our past lives, and we will receive harm from others in the future as well. So, we're not denying that. But the teachings say that their kindness outweighs the harm they have done. And if you do have doubt about that, just check. The interactions that take place between people and between other living beings, are they mostly harmful and violent and aggressive? Or are they mostly friendly and at least neutral, non-harmful? So just think about that. Just like on this planet, there's more than 7 billion human beings, and most of us live quite close to each other and interact with each other a lot every single day. So what's the normal way of interaction among people? Are there more cases of people fighting and killing and harming each other? Or mostly do people just treat each other in a friendly way, or at least in a neutral, non-harmful way? Also, another point is, since we are trying to cultivate positive qualities, positive attitudes in order to reach enlightenment, is it beneficial to focus on the harm we've received from others, the harmful behavior of others? Is there any benefit in focusing on that and paying more attention to that than to their kindness, the good things that they've done? And then the third point is to contemplate how all of us, all human beings and other living beings, we're all impermanent by nature and we're all subject to death. So, given that, is there any point in discriminating against anyone and clinging to old hurts, old resentments? So one way that might help us understand that is if you imagine you're in an airplane and the airplane runs into strong turbulence. The plane is being knocked around and you might think, oh, maybe we will crash. In that kind of situation, would it make sense for you to start picking fights with your fellow passengers over small things? Or getting all upset about the person who didn't pay you back the $10 they borrowed? So in a similar way, if we contemplate how we ourselves and every other living being are going to die, and we have no way of knowing when that will happen, does it make sense to cling to negative thoughts and feelings towards anyone and refuse to regard anyone with concern and kindness? So as a conclusion, if this contemplation has led you to feel a sense of equanimity, a greater sense of equality of yourself and others, and the importance of opening your heart to others and not discriminating amongst them, then cherish that attitude, however small it might be, and make the resolution to try to keep it alive in your mind and in your life as you go about your activities and especially in your interactions with others. So I thought it might be helpful at this point to look again at the map to figure out where we are. It's good to do that every so often when you're on a journey, you know. So I made a slide just showing the first 10 topics. So once again, our subject is the 70 topics, and the 70 topics are the main points covered in this text called The Ornament for Clear Realizations by Maitreya, which in turn is a commentary to the Buddha's Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. And the Ornament specifically explains the hidden meaning of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, and that is the actual paths that a bodhisattva needs to follow, the things a bodhisattva needs to do, the realizations they need to attain, and so on, in order to actually progress to enlightenment. And the Ornament has eight chapters, and each chapter deals with a different subject, most of which are clear realizations. So far, we've only been on the first chapter, which is on the first clear realization, which is called the exalted knower of all aspects, which is another way of saying enlightenment or omniscient mind, the Buddha's mind. And that was, I just briefly explained that. And then we started looking at the 10 topics that characterize, elucidate the exalted knower of all aspects. And so this is the list of the 10 topics. And I gave a list of these before. The first class we had on the 4th of May, on one of the slides, I had the 10 topics, but I just realized I left out one of them. It was only 9 instead of 10. And the one that was left out is number 8. So this is the complete list. And I have also redone the slides of the 4th of May. I made a complete corrected copy, which I sent to Venerable Dundrup, so you can download that. So please download that corrected version of the slides and replace the other one that had a point missing. Okay, so we've been going through some of these topics. I'll just briefly review what we've done so far. The first topic we spent some time on, it's called Mahayana Conventional Generated Mind, which is bodhicitta. Another way of calling bodhicitta, conventional bodhicitta. So we spent some time looking at that. And then the second topic is Mahayana instructions. So those are instructions, teachings for bodhisattvas. Once they've generated bodhicitta and they're, strongly determined to go to enlightenment, what do they have to do? What do they have to know in order to reach enlightenment? And Mahayana instructions is kind of a big topic. There were 10 subdivisions, and we looked at a few of those. For example, the 2 truths. We spent time looking at the 2 truths according to this school, and also the path of seeing. So those are included in Mahayana instructions, but we don't have time to go into all the others. So, and then the third topic is the Mahayana path of preparation. So we looked at that last time a little bit. And the 4 divisions of that are the 4 levels of the path of preparation: heat, peak, forbearance, and supreme mundane quality. And then topic number 4 is called Lineage Abiding in the Nature. And that's talking about Buddha nature, the potential for enlightenment, but mainly the type of Buddha nature that is the emptiness of the mind, the emptiness of an ordinary being's mind, a mind that still has stains, defilements, isn't yet fully developed, fully enlightened. So the emptiness of our mind is the lineage abiding in the nature, or sometimes it's called naturally abiding lineage. And then number 5 is the objects of observation of Mahayana achievings. And that's all phenomena, everything that exists. Because a bodhisattva needs to focus on and observe all phenomena in order to eliminate superimpositions, wrong perceptions, wrong way of seeing things. Mainly, the main wrong way of seeing things that we have to eliminate is true existence, seeing things as if they existed truly and ultimately. So Bodhisattva needs to focus on all phenomena and eliminate seeing them as truly existing. But there's other superimpositions as well, such as permanence, seeing impermanent things as permanent, seeing unsatisfactory things as wonderful and satisfying. There's actually lots of superimpositions. Seeing an enemy as 100% bad without any good qualities at all. And so lots of superimpositions that need to be overcome, eliminated. And then number 6, object of intent of Mahayana achievings. And so there we looked at, just briefly, 3 points, called the 3 greatnesses. These are aspects or attributes of a Buddha, a fully enlightened being. The great heroic mind, which refers to compassion and this, complete dedication to helping all living beings, great realization and great abandonment. So that's mainly talking about what is the aim of the bodhisattvas, what it is they're trying to achieve, the object of their intent. And then number 7 was achieving of armor, which we looked at just at the end of last class. And that refers to the bodhisattva's practice of the 6 perfections, such that each of the 6 perfections, when they're practicing any one of the 6 perfections, they practice all 6 of them together in a comprehensive way. We looked at one example of that with the perfection of giving. So when practicing the perfection of giving, you're also practicing ethics and patience and joyous effort and concentration and wisdom, and so on. So with any of the 6 perfections, all 6 are practiced together. And that's called achieving of armor, because it said that practicing in that way is like armor for the mind. It protects the mind from mistakes, from faults, such as miserliness, for example, in the practice of generosity or giving. Miserliness, stinginess might creep in. So by practicing all 6 perfections together, then there's less chance of any faults occurring. So that's as far as we've gotten up to now. And tonight, I'll see if we can finish the last 3, 8, 9, and 10, looking at some of the details of those. There's some really interesting material in there. Before I do that, though, last week there was a question that came up about acquired afflictions, because we had talked about how the path of seeing, when the path of seeing is attained, all the acquired obscurations are eliminated in one go. And the acquired obscurations include afflictive obscurations, various kinds of afflictions, and also the knowledge obscurations. And so somebody asked about the acquired afflictions and some examples of those. So I'm just going to read from this book called Samsara, Nirvana, and Buddha Nature by His Holiness Dalai Lama and Venerable Children. Page 124 in here. It gives some examples of acquired afflictions. So strong clinging to identities of this life, our nationality, religion, ethnicity, race, class, education level, gender, sexual orientation, and so forth, is an acquired affliction. Okay, so acquired afflictions, we come into this life with innate afflictions. We have innate anger, innate attachment, innate ignorance, and so on. But the acquired versions are the ones we acquire, that we develop in this lifetime. So these are some examples of that. So based on our education and our conditioning as we grow up, we acquire certain ideas like our nationality, our gender, our religion, our family, education level. We're not born with those. We're not born thinking I'm an American, or I'm Israeli, or I'm French. Okay, that's something we acquire later as we go along. And so then based on these acquired ideas about ourselves, identities about ourselves, then we can have attachment, being very attached to our nationality, our ethnicity, our gender, and so on. And then we can also get angry. We can have anger coming up if we are insulted, or our nation is insulted, or our gender is insulted, and so on. So does that sound familiar? You ever have those kind of afflictions coming up? So those are acquired afflictions, not inborn, innate. So we learn these identities in this life, and we're taught to be attached to them. We then think, I am this and this, and you should treat me in such and such a way. While the specific identity is acquired, the mind that clings to I am is innate. So we come into this life, we're born with an innate grasping at a real, truly existing I. Okay, but it's, at a very basic level. And then as we grow up and learn and acquire experiences, then our sense of I takes on these various identities, and then we can have attachment and aversion related to those. Yeah.
Excuse me, Venerable.
Huh?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
His Holiness just went live.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so if anybody wants to switch to that channel, I'm going to continue this class because, not everybody wants to attend that initiation. So if anyone wishes to, you can join that. This is very early, an hour and a half before schedule. Okay. Okay, so then I hope that makes it more clear about acquired afflictions. Okay, so to continue, the next slide.
Someone's raised their hand.
Huh? Question? Oh, okay. Yes.
So, Venerable, thank you for that explanation. I wondered, though, what would be an example of an acquired knowledge obscuration? Or were those examples of that?
There are acquired knowledge obscurations. So the knowledge obscurations, we didn't go into detail about them, but according to this school, okay, this is Yogacharas Tantrika Madhyamaka, and according to this school, the knowledge obscurations are mainly the conception of true existence. And in the text, in the ornament, it goes into many different types of conception of true existence of different objects, but it's basically conceiving of true existence. So we have innate. I mean, the conception of true existence is something innate. It's been in the mind from beginningless time. And so we're born with it. It's already there when we're born. So, I mean, I don't think we ever learned any specific examples of acquired conception of true existence. But my guess would be that, yeah, we're born already from the beginning of our life. We have this basic conception of everything being truly existing, ourself, our body, our mind, mom and dad, everything. And then, but then as we go through life, again, because of our learning and our education, our conditioning, our experiences, then the variety of conceptions of true existence can arise, like being American, or America being truly existing, seeing America as truly existing. We didn't have that when we were born. We didn't even know what America was. Okay, so as we grow up and we learn about America and about ourselves as an American and so on, so then, you know, we acquire that conception of an American and truly existing, America is truly existing, American president is truly existing. I'm just guessing because, like I say, it didn't really go into details with that in the text. Now, Prasangika is a different story. According to Prasangika, knowledge obscurations or obscurations to omniscience are not conceptions. They're not minds at all. They are just the imprints, the imprints, the tendencies left by the conception of true existence. So even after the conception of true existence has been cleared away from the mind, there's still these subtle traces, tendencies, like they say it's like the smell of garlic that's still there in a pot after you remove the garlic. So that's Prasangika. But that's a different school. So here in this school, the Yogacara Svatantrika Madhyamaka, then the knowledge obscurations do include conceptions, mental states, mainly the conception of true existence. And so there are acquired versions of that. Yeah, I think for Prasangika, there are no acquired levels of knowledge obscurations,
Right.
only innate. So you only start eliminating those when you reach the 8th ground.
Right. The pure. Yeah.
The last 3 grounds, those are eliminated then. So this is one of the big differences between the two schools. The kinds of obscurations, what's included in afflictive obscurations and knowledge obscurations, and how they're eliminated over which paths and so on. It gets very complicated. Is that clear?
It is. Thank you, Venerable.
So then the next slide, we'll look at the next topic. Again, going through the 10 topics of exalted knower of all aspects. So number 8 of the 10 is called Achieving of Engagement. And this follows the last achieving of armor, because after donning the armor of the 6 perfections, which was the last topic, then the Bodhisattva is ready to engage in the practice, in the path. So the definition of this is a Bodhisattva's yoga, practicing an application in some type of quality of Mahayana cause and effect by means of mainly joyous effort. There's a lot of terms there. Bodhisattva's yoga, this is again mental yoga, not physical yoga. And a Bodhisattva's yoga in general can either be just calm abiding itself, or it could be the union of calm abiding and special insight. So it's a pretty highly developed, highly focused mind. And then application, we had that term before, and that also just refers to a bodhisattva practice that again could be either calm abiding or a union of calm abiding and special insight. Yeah, so again, it's a practice a bodhisattva uses to attain higher realizations. And then there's this expression, Mahayana cause and effect. So under this topic, achieving of engagement, there are 9 divisions. And the first 8 of the divisions are causes, and the 9th one is an effect, the result of those causes. So the 9 divisions are involved with cause and effect. And I'm not going to go into the 9 divisions, most of them, but we'll focus on one of them. So bodhisattvas engage in all these practices with joyous effort. And these practices are causes that bring about results, the desired results, mainly enlightenment, Buddhahood. So that's what a bodhisattva is always aiming for. And these practices mainly involve a strong union of calm abiding and special insight. And this particular topic, or these kind of practices start from the heat level of the Mahayana path of preparation. That's the point at which the bodhisattva has attained the union of calm abiding and special insight focused on emptiness. And they go all the way through the end of the continuum of a sentient being. That means the last bit of the path before you become a Buddha. So from the beginning of the path of preparation on up to Buddhahood, that's where you find this kind of practice. And then the 9 divisions. So I'll just read them. The concentrations and formless absorptions, the 6 perfections, we've heard those before. Arya paths are the paths of seeing, meditation, and no more learning. The 4 immeasurables, we're familiar with those. Non-observability refers to emptiness, emptiness of true existence. Sometimes it's called non-observability. The 3 completely pure spheres. So we've heard about that before. Like a bodhisattva is always maintaining this awareness that the 3 aspects of any action, the one doing the action itself, and the object in relation to which the action is done. So those are the 3 spheres. The bodhisattva is always aware that all these 3 are empty of true existence. No truly existing I who's doing the action, no truly existing action, no truly existing object of the action. And then the 3 objects of intent, those are as before, the great heroic mind, great abandonment, great realization. So those are all on the level of enlightenment. 6 clairvoyances, those are 6 special states of mind, like the ability to emanate different forms, remember past lives, and so on. So those are the first 8. Those are the causes. And then the 9th one is the exalted knower of all aspects. That's the result. That's enlightenment, Buddhahood. And so in the commentaries that we studied, they mainly just listed these. They didn't give much information about them, with the exception of the first one, the concentrations and formless absorptions. So I thought to spend some time on that, because it's an important topic, and it's not always easy to find information about it. It's very complicated. I'm not going to go into all the complicated details, but just to give some idea, so you have a little bit more understanding than before. So, and actually in the monasteries, like when the monks and nuns are studying to get a Geshe degree, they take time off and study separate texts just on this topic, the concentration and formless absorptions. So it's considered very, very important to understand. So there's a total of 8 of these, 4 concentrations of the form realm and 4 formless absorptions of the formless realm. And there's 2 ways of talking about these 8 things. One way is that they are mental states, meditative states that you achieve through practice of meditation and developing very, very strong concentration. So that's one way of talking about them. And the other way of talking about them is as places where you can be reborn. So these, it's possible to take rebirth in these 8 different situations. But to do that, you have to first attain the meditative state. You can't take rebirth in those places if you haven't achieved that particular meditative state. So, for example, the first one is called the first concentration. So that term, the first concentration, sometimes it refers to the meditative state that a human being could attain while they're still in as a human being, and then you can go in and out of that mental state. That's one way, one meaning of it. But the first concentration also talks about a realm, a place that one can be reborn in. These are Deva realms. These are, they're all God realms, Deva realms, very peaceful and blissful and wonderful. But as Buddhists, we try to avoid them unless there's a good reason to go to them. I'll talk about that later. Okay, so the form realm then has 4, called the 4 concentrations, and the term in Sanskrit is jhana, usually spelled Dhyana, jhana, and the Pali term is very similar, jhana. So you might have heard those terms because nowadays there's quite a bit of talk among Western Buddhists, but well, probably Buddhists everywhere, about attaining these jhanas. And sometimes it almost sounds like people attain them quite easily. I heard a story about one woman, a Western woman, who attended her very first meditation retreat. And she had some kind of experience and went and talked to the teacher, and the teacher said, "Oh, you've attained the first jhana." Huh? I mean, according to our tradition, you need a lot of work to be able to achieve these. I'm going to go through what you have to do. However, it's also possible that, I mean, they do say we have achieved these in past lives. We have achieved all of these meditative states, and we have been born in all of these realms. We've been there, done that. And so it's possible that, if a person had achieved the first concentration in their last life, and maybe they were even in that realm, so their mind is quite familiar with that particular meditative state. And then in this lifetime, it's possible the first time they start meditating, bing, it's just like remembering a realization they had before. So that's possible. I don't want to rule that out, but it's also possible that people might, have some blissful experience and mistakenly think that that's the first concentration. So just have to be a little careful about these. So so in the form realm, the 4 are just called the first concentration, the second concentration, the third concentration, and the fourth concentration. And then the formless realm have specific names: limitless space, limitless consciousness, nothingness. And the fourth one has 2 names. The easy name is Peak of Samsara. It's like the penthouse of samsara. It's like the highest state you can be in, the highest realm you can be born in samsara. And it has another name, which is the more technical name. This is also very confusing. Without discrimination, without non-discrimination. We'll get to that later, why it's called that. But yeah, you can just stick with peak of samsara for now. So these 8 meditative states have to be developed in that particular order. You have to first attain the first concentration, and then the second one, and then the third one, and so on. You can't decide, I think I like limitless space. I want to go there. And you can kind of jump over the first 4 and just go into that. It won't work. So it's a bit like if you're in a building that has 8 stories and no elevator, only stairs, and you don't know how to fly, you have to walk up each flight of stairs. You have to go to the first floor and then to the second floor and so on. You finally reach the 8th one. And so how do you attain these? So the method of attaining them is, in our tradition, is the 7 preparations, which are on the next slide. So these are 7 practices, like 7 steps. And these same 7 practices have to be done, have to be achieved to reach each of the concentration. So to attain the first concentration, you have to do these 7 steps. And then if you want to go from the first to the second, you again have to do the 7 steps. So it's the same 7 steps to achieve each one, but there would be slight differences in the way that you do them. So I'll just explain them according to like the first concentration, how to achieve the first concentration, and then just explain the differences between that and the next one. So they have these technical terms. Don't worry about the technical terms. I put them down just to be technical, just to go with the tradition. But you know, the important thing is to understand what they are. So the first of the 7 preparations, the technical name is Attention of a Mere Beginner, and this refers to calm abiding. So we know, well, we've heard about calm abiding. And the Lamrim explains how to achieve that by way of overcoming 5 hindrances, using the 8 antidotes and different kinds of attentions. And then you gradually proceed through 9 stages of mental development. And then having done all that, you attain calm abiding. And the point at which calm abiding is attained is said to be when you experience mental and physical pliancy, which is the kind of lightness of body and mind, flexibility of body and mind, and also bliss arising from pliancy. And these experiences occur due to single-pointed concentration, being able to keep your mind focused single-pointedly on your meditation object. And they say, you know, at the point when you achieve calm abiding, you can remain in single-pointed concentration on your object for at least 4 hours or even longer without any faults like excitement, laxity, and sleepiness, and so on. It's a very, very powerful state of concentration. And it's actually said that calm abiding itself is a mind of the form realm. So that means if you achieve calm abiding, every time you are meditating and in that state of calm abiding, your mind is in the form realm, even though your body is still in the desire realm, but your mind is in the form realm. And then having attained calm abiding, you can use it for different things. And calm abiding is common it's not exclusively Buddhist. So in India in the past and also in the present, people know how to attain calm abiding who are not Buddhist, maybe other religions as well. So it's not exclusively Buddhist, but for Buddhists, the attainment of calm abiding is to be used to develop wisdom, to develop the union of calm abiding and special insight into emptiness or selflessness, so that you can, our goal is to get out of samsara. So someone on the Buddhist path will attain calm abiding and then use it in meditating on emptiness or selflessness, and go on to attain the union of calm abiding and special insight. And that, as we looked at before, that's the beginning of the path of preparation when you achieve that. So that way of using calm abiding is called the supra-mundane path. But then there's also a way of using calm abiding in the mundane path, and that's what we're looking at here, using calm abiding to attain the concentrations and the formless absorptions. And it's said in the Ornament that a bodhisattva, even though a bodhisattva's goal is enlightenment, Buddhahood, getting out of samsara and helping all other beings get out of samsara as well, a bodhisattva does need to develop all 4 of the concentrations and the 4 formless absorptions. So this is for a bodhisattva following the sutra path, because Mahayana is divided into Sutrayana and Tantrayana or Vajrayana. So the Sutrayana path, the Paramitayana path, which is what the Ornament is all about, on that path, the bodhisattva must develop all 8 of these meditative states. And so a bodhisattva, while they're working their way to enlightenment, at certain times they will meditate in order to develop these concentrations and formless absorptions. So having achieved calm abiding, one needs to continue meditating to get more familiar with it, make it more stable. And then at a certain point, one will move on to the second preparation, which has the term attention of individual knowledge of character. And this involves doing analysis, doing analytical meditation. And so what you meditate on is, it's called grossness and peacefulness, meaning that you compare the grossness of a lower level with the peacefulness of a higher level. And so to attain the first concentration, which is in the form realm, you're still in the desire realm, and you want to overcome attachment to the desire realm. And so you meditate on the grossness of the desire realm, how gross it is in the desire realm, how yuck, all the yucky things in the desire realm, so that you overcome attachment, and you realize, oh, this isn't a good place to be. And then, so you do analytical meditation on that. And you also meditate on the form realm, the first concentration specifically, and the peacefulness of that. And so by doing this kind of meditation over and over and over again, you are able to, you can't abandon attachment. It's not possible to abandon from the root attachment in this way, but you suppress it. You manage to strongly suppress your attachment and your other afflictions related to the lower realm, the desire realm. And in that way, then you're able to attain the first concentration, which is in the form realm. So just to give some idea, and if you're interested in more about this topic, there's this book called Meditative States by Lati Rinpoche, Demaloch Rinpoche. So this explains all the details about how to achieve the concentrations and formless absorptions. So just examples of how you do this kind of meditation. So you think about how the sentient beings of the desire realm have a bad nature. The sign of their having a bad nature is that they quarrel with one another and make war. We know that, don't we? They are also ugly in color and shape. When we look at one another, we tend to think that some of us are attractive and others are not. However, compared to the beings of the first concentration, we are all ugly. Even those of us who are considered beautiful would look like monkeys next to a being of the first concentration. So it's said that I've heard elsewhere that in the form realm, the beings have bodies of light. They don't have bodies like ours, all these yucky things, just bodies of light, very clear and pure and very beautiful as well. And then our minds are full of all kinds of afflictions like hatred, ignorance, resentment, and so on, jealousy. And we behave badly. We commit 10 non-virtuous actions. And then we have all kinds of sufferings of birth and sickness and not getting what we want, losing what we have, and so on. So you contemplate all the sufferings of the desire realm. And also the environment. You also think about the environment of the desire realm. This is the lumpy landscape we have, especially Tibet. Very, anywhere you want to go in Tibet, you have to climb mountains, go up and down. Yeah, so there's lots of imperfections in our environment. So these are just some examples of contemplating faults of the desire realm. And then the form realm, so you think about the peacefulness of that. And so the beings in the first concentration and all over the form realm, they don't fight or quarrel. They don't have anger, belligerence, resentment. So some really gross afflictions that we have, they don't have them at all. They've been strongly suppressed. And they don't commit any of the 10 non-virtuous actions. There's no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, and so on. None of those 10 non-virtuous actions are ever committed. So when I was thinking about that, I thought, oh, they probably don't have police, and they don't have prisons, and they don't have courts. They probably don't have hospitals, because I don't think their bodies get sick. And they probably don't have mental hospitals either. So very different environment. And they have much less suffering, like the gross sufferings we have of birth or aging and so on. They don't lack what they want. They get whatever they need without hardship. So those are just some examples to give you an idea of how you would do this kind of meditation. So you would do analytical meditation, thinking about the faults of the desire realm and the good qualities of the form realm. And by doing that, then you also have to alternate analytical meditation and calm abiding, and to achieve a union of those two. And when you do achieve a union of calm abiding and analysis, then you achieve level 3, point number 3, preparation number 3, attention arisen from belief. So this is actually special insight, and also mean the union of calm abiding and special insight arising from doing that kind of analysis. So you gain a very strong certainty that the desire realm is relatively gross and undesirable and unsatisfying, and the first concentration is very peaceful and desirable and satisfying. So that's the third preparation, when you achieve this union of calm abiding and special insight. And so with that mental state, that special insight, you are able to strongly suppress the afflictions of the desire realm that keep you stuck in the desire realm and keep you from attaining the form realm. And those afflictions are divided into 9 different levels. And it's really funny, the terms they use. So first they're divided into 3, great, middle, and small. And then each of those is divided into 3, So the great has the great of the great, the middle of the great, the small of the great. Then the next level, the great of the middle, middle, small, middle. And then the small is great small, middle small, and small, small. Kind of easy in a way. So those are the 9 levels of afflictions of the desire realm that one needs to suppress, to attain the first concentration. So when your special insight gets strong enough to suppress the great level, all 3 greats, great of the great, middle of the great, small of the great, then that's the 4th preparation, attention of thorough isolation. So when you reach that, then the 3 great levels of affliction have been suppressed. Then with further meditation, you're able to suppress the next level, the middling level. So the great of the middle, middle of the middle, small of the middle. So that's number 5, the 5th preparation, attention of joy, withdrawal. And then the 6th preparation is called the attention of analysis. So here, you're not sure if you have eliminated all the afflictions of the desire realm or not. And so you check, and they say you do a kind of test. You test yourself. You bring to mind an object that normally you would have attachment for or aversion for. So you bring that object to mind and you check to see if there's any remaining attachment or aversion towards that object. And it seems like you do. You do realize there's still a little bit of attachment left or aversion left. So you realize you haven't eliminated all the afflictions of the desire realm. So you again do that meditation, and it gets strong enough to be able to eliminate the smallest levels of the desire realm afflictions. And so that's the 7th preparation when you get to that point. Attention of final training or application. And so having done that, you have strongly suppressed all the levels of the desire realm afflictions, and that enables you to attain the first actual concentration. So that's just a brief explanation of how you attain one of the concentrations. And then if you want to then go on to attain the second concentration, you probably spend some time on the first concentration, getting used to that. To attain the second one, you again go through these 7 preparations, but this time you would be meditating on the relative grossness of the first concentration and the relative peacefulness of the second concentration. So the first concentration, even though much better than the desire realm, but there's still certain mental factors and certain experiences that you would have in the first concentration that make it not completely perfect and satisfying. And so you focus on those and realize, yeah, those aren't so great. And then relatively the second concentration is a more peaceful, more pure state of mind. So you do that meditation and then overcome the afflictions related to the first concentration and then move on to the second concentration. So that's the procedure you go through for each of the concentrations. And again, if you're interested in the details, this book will explain all the details. So the differences between the 4 concentrations of the form realm is they have certain features that are called branches, not like tree branches, but they're mental factors, certain mental factors that either overcome the faults of a lower level of concentration, or they bring certain benefits. So again, there's lots of details regarding that, but we won't go into those. And the fourth concentration is said to be particularly powerful. It's said to be free from 8 faults of concentration. So the 8 faults, I'll just mention them, you don't have to know them, but yeah. Investigation and analysis, those are 2 mental factors that involve, investigating and analyzing. So they disturb your concentration. So you're free of those on the 4th level, 4th concentration. Also, inhalation and exhalation. When you reach the 4th concentration, you don't need to breathe anymore. Yeah, I guess that's disturbing. Really disturbing. And then painful feelings of body and mind. So this is referring to the mental factor of feeling, where there's 3 basic types of feeling: pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and neutral feeling. So you're free of all the unpleasant feelings, both physical and mental. You no longer have those. You're also free of mental and physical happiness or pleasant feelings. You might be surprised about that, but when you reach that level, you realize that happiness is disturbing. Yeah, and you prefer equanimity. You prefer an equanimous state of mind. Yeah. So that's the main mental factor that you have on the 4th concentration, equanimity. So that's a little bit about the 4 concentrations. And then for the formless absorptions, so they also need to be attained by means of the 7 preparations. So you have to go through 7 preparations to attain each of those. So having attained the 4 concentrations, if you want to go on and attain these, you do so by contemplating that the discriminations of the lower level are more coarse and those of the higher level are more peaceful. So discrimination is one of the mental factors. It's an ever-present, omnipresent mental factor. So it's always in our mind. And it's that mental factor that enables us to distinguish one object from another, like colors, for example, blue from yellow and a dog from a cat and so on. So it's that mental factor. So what you would meditate on to attain the first formless absorption, which is called infinite space, you meditate that the discriminations of the form realm are coarse. So discriminations of the form realm can include, different kinds of forms like blue and yellow, and also obstructions, things that obstruct like walls and mountains. And so you come to see that those are coarse, and you have this longing for space, infinite space, where you don't have such coarse discriminations. So you see that as a peaceful state to be in. And so you do some analysis, and it said that to attain the formless absorptions, you don't do that much analysis. You do a little bit of analysis, but you mainly use calm abiding, just focus single-pointedly, stabilizing meditation. So again, you go through the 7 preparations and finally attain infinite space. And so this experience of infinite space, the absorption of infinite space, is that the only thing that appears to your mind is infinite space, pervading everywhere. Hard to imagine, but then you may become dissatisfied with that and long for something else. So you move on to the next one. The second the second and third formless absorptions are attained in a similar way by contemplating that the discriminations of the earlier level, the lower level, are coarse and undesirable, and the discriminations of the higher level are more peaceful, more satisfying. So infinite consciousness, I don't fully understand what that means, but it's just, yeah, not space, but just consciousness pervading everything everywhere. But eventually you become dissatisfied with that, and then you want nothingness. So the third formless absorption is called nothingness. And so to attain that, you contemplate that the discriminations of infinite consciousness are coarse, and think that the discrimination, there is nothing form or formless to be apprehended. So you contemplate that that is something peaceful and desirable. And so eventually you attain that state. And then the fourth formless absorption is called the peak of samsara. But the technical term is without discrimination, not without discrimination. So here, one no longer has coarse forms of the mental factor of discrimination, but you still have subtle forms of discrimination. So the meaning of without discrimination, but not without discrimination means you don't have coarse discrimination. The mind is free of coarse discrimination, but it still has subtle discrimination. So it's not that you're totally without any discrimination, you just have a subtle discrimination. And it said that to attain this, you meditate on the discrimination. Peace is sublime. And in that way, achieve that particular formless absorption. And so that is the highest level within samsara. And if you're born there, it's the place with the longest lifespan, the least amount of suffering, the greatest amount of peace. And also, if you're born in the formless realms, you don't have a body. There's no physical body, no physical form at all. So it's just the mind. You have your remaining 4 aggregates. You don't have the form aggregate, but you have the other 4 aggregates. So it's just mind, abiding in a state of meditation for the entire time you're there. Very peaceful. But it's still samsara, not liberation. And so generally Buddhist practitioners don't want to be born in the form realm or in the formless realms. They're kind of like spiritual dead ends. They don't lead out of samsara. So a Buddhist practitioner wants to attain liberation from samsara. But there could be reasons to take birth in them. For example, Bodhisattvas, because they want to help all sentient beings. So while they're on their way to enlightenment and spending many eons on their way to enlightenment, they may choose to take birth in the form realm in order to teach Dharma to the beings in the form realm. They probably wouldn't take birth in the formless realms because there the beings don't have bodies, so they don't have ears, they can't hear the Dharma. And so it would be difficult for Bodhisattvas to get through to them and teach them. So maybe the formless realm wouldn't be a place they'd go, but the form realm, yes, they would go there. And so that's one reason why the Bodhisattvas cultivate these meditative states, so that they can go and take birth in them and help the beings there. But another reason they develop these meditative states is to have mental dexterity, to have a very agile mind. And there's certain practices, they come later in the Ornament, that involve going into meditation and then going from one of these meditative states to another, sometimes in a very short period of time, kind of going up and down, jumping over. So, and they don't do this just for fun, because it's said that when a bodhisattva will use, the 7 preparations to attain these meditative states. But once they attain those meditative states, like the first concentration and so on, they use them to meditate on emptiness. So in that way, you can have a very powerful experience of emptiness. You can meditate on emptiness with the first concentration, or especially the fourth concentration. That's the most kind of powerful state of mind. Then your experience of emptiness becomes very, very powerful. And there's also this story. It's in the Digha Nikaya in the Pali Canon. When the Buddha passed away, we call it attaining parinirvana. So it said that he did this kind of I forget what it's called, but yeah, this kind of mental gymnastics. He went into the first concentration, and then from there to the second, and then to the third, and then to the fourth, and then to the meditative absorption of infinite space, and then infinite consciousness, and then nothingness, and then the peak of samsara. So he went one by one serially through the 8 meditative states. And then there's a ninth one, which is called the absorption of cessation. He went into that as well. And then he went down from there all the way down to the first concentration, one by one. And then from the first concentration, he went up to the fourth. And then from the fourth, he passed into parinirvana. So kind of a special way of using your mind and using these meditative states. And so bodhisattvas, and I think also on the Hinayana path, hearers and solitary realizers, I think they can also develop this ability to do this with their mind. So that's just a little bit briefly about the concentrations and formless absorptions. I find it a really fascinating subject. There's also another book by Leah Zahler. I forget what it's called, but it's much thicker. She really spent a lot of time researching this topic and going into much detail about it.
Study and practice of meditation.
Huh?
Study and practice of meditation.
Could be. Snow I am.
Yep.
Yeah. Study and practice of meditation. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so that was topic 8, achieving of engagement. Topic 9 is called achieving of accumulation. And so this is about the 2 accumulations. We hear a lot about that. The accumulation of merits, accumulation of wisdom. Those are 2 main areas of practice a bodhisattva has to engage in. So the achieving of accumulation is a Bodhisattvas Yoga conjoined with the 2 extensive accumulations that results in complete enlightenment. So again, Bodhisattvas Yoga, meaning a practice that involves mainly either calm abiding or calm abiding and special insight. So the 2 accumulations are, they're called the accumulation of merits. And this mainly deposits imprints for the form body, the Rupakaya. Okay, so a Bodhisattva's goal is to become fully enlightened, a Buddha. And when you become a Buddha, you have various kayas. And the kayas or bodies can be divided in different ways. One, the simplest way is just 2, the Rupakaya and the Dharmakaya. Rupakaya, the form bodies, the bodies that a Buddha will emanate to go out and help sentient beings who are still on their way to enlightenment and help them get to enlightenment. So to achieve the Rupakaya, to achieve the form bodies, the causes are mainly the accumulation of merits. And then the accumulation of wisdom, exalted wisdom, this mainly deposits imprints for the truth body, the Dharmakaya. So that's the omniscient mind of the Buddha, Buddha's omniscient mind. Dharmakaya can also include the emptiness of the Buddha's mind, which is called a nature body. So The term Dhammakaya includes both of those. So the cause for that is mainly the accumulation of wisdom, mainly meditating on emptiness. So a simple way of dividing like the 6 perfections between these 2 accumulations, one way is that the first 5 perfections, giving, ethics, patience, joyous effort, and concentration, are included in the accumulation of merits. And then the 6th perfection, the perfection of wisdom, is the accumulation of exalted wisdom. There's other ways of dividing them, but that's kind of the simplest way. So the practice of the 6 perfections, then, practicing that fully, you are accumulating those 2 accumulations, and in that way you are creating the causes for the 2 Buddha bodies, Rupakaya and Dharmakaya. And in both of those explanations, it mentions mainly, accumulation of merits is mainly for the form body, exalted wisdom mainly for the truth body. The significance of that is that the accumulation of merit not only leaves imprints for the form body, but also for the truth body. And likewise, wisdom, accumulation of wisdom, mainly leaves imprints for the truth body, but also for the form body. Because you need both accumulations to attain Buddhahood and to attain the Buddha bodies. You can't only accumulate merits and not wisdom and then achieve Buddhahood and have, some Buddha bodies, but not all of them. You need the whole thing. So you need to have both merits and wisdom to achieve the state of enlightenment and all the Buddha bodies. So you can't, do without one of them. Both are needed. So there are 17 divisions, and I'm not going to go into them. I'll just talk about a few. The first is the accumulation of great compassion. So the next slide. There's 3 types of compassion, and these are mainly found in Chandrakirti's text, the Entering the Supplement to the Middle Way, Madhyamaka Vatara. Really beautiful text. And so in there, right at the beginning, he pays homage to great compassion. And then there's an explanation of these 3 types of compassion. So Bodhisattva does need to develop all 3 of these. So the first one is called compassion observing mere sentient beings. So this is what we normally understand by compassion. The wish, seeing the suffering of sentient beings, wishing them to be free of suffering, wishing to do whatever you can to free them from suffering. The second kind of compassion is called compassion observing phenomena. And so this is also compassion, looking at sentient beings and seeing how they suffer and wanting them to be free of suffering. But it also includes either awareness of impermanence. So you're seeing sentient beings as impermanent. It could also include seeing them as empty of a having a self-sufficient, substantially existent self, the kind of coarse, relatively coarse level of selflessness of persons. So to have that kind of compassion, a person must have realized impermanence and possibly also that type of selflessness, realizing the emptiness of a self-sufficient, substantially existent self. So then when looking at sentient beings and seeing how they suffer, you also have this awareness that sentient beings are impermanent. They're changing moment by moment. And you may also have that other realization that they are empty of a self-sufficient, substantially existent self. a kind of self that's like a master, like a boss. So if you have either or both of those realizations, then that affects the way in which you see sentient beings. You still see them as suffering and you want them to be free of suffering, but you have this deeper awareness of how sentient beings exist. And then the third type of compassion is called compassion observing the unapprehendable. Sometimes it's called non-observational compassion. Like in the prayer to Lama Tsongkhapa, the Mitsema, the first line of that mentions this type of compassion. Referring to Lama Tsongkhapa, that you have this third type of compassion. So this type of compassion is in the mind of somebody who's realized emptiness of true existence. And so there's awareness that all phenomena, including all sentient beings, lack true existence. They don't exist truly. And so again, when you look at sentient beings, you see them as suffering and you wish them to be free of suffering, but you also realize sentient beings are empty of true existence. And so that flavors your compassion. And in fact, it's said that when you have a realization of emptiness, it enhances your compassion. And also your compassion will enhance your wisdom realizing emptiness. I mean, one way that works is when you realize emptiness, then it becomes so much more clear to you how sentient beings are suffering because they don't realize emptiness. Their mind is still enmeshed in ignorance about the true nature of things. And you realize the true nature of things. You realize how things do exist. And so your compassion becomes even more powerful. You really feel so much sympathy, so much compassion for sentient beings because they're suffering unnecessarily because of this ignorance, because they haven't woken up to the true nature of things. So it really empowers your compassion. And and your compassion will also empower your wisdom of emptiness because you have such strong compassion. You want so much to help sentient beings. Then you'll work even harder at building up your familiarity with your wisdom realizing emptiness so that you can more quickly reach enlightenment and be able to help them. So they help each other. They support each other. So that's just a little bit about those three types of compassion that a Bodhisattva develops. And that's the first achieving. And then the next 6 achieving accumulation are related to the 6 perfections. So with a motivation of great compassion, the Bodhisattva will engage in the practices of the 6 perfections to help sentient beings. So let's see if we have time to do the next topic. It's again part of the achieving of accumulation, but it's achieving of accumulation of the 10 grounds. This is number 16 of the 17 divisions. So it's interesting to learn more about the 10 grounds. So the term ground, I mentioned earlier that it's a synonym of path. So in general, a ground is the same as a path. It's a wisdom, a realization. But when talking about the 10 grounds, it's a specific kind of path, a specific kind of realization. So the first bullet point mentions it's a non-conceptual, exalted wisdom of meditative equipoise that directly observes thusness, that's another term for emptiness, and is fully conjoined with great compassion. And so this specifies that one of the 10 grounds has to be in the mind of an Arya Bodhisattva. It's a person who has attained this direct realization of emptiness and is fully conjoined with great compassion. So Bodhisattva's mind is never without great compassion, even when they're in meditative equipoise. Great compassion is still influencing that mind. So that's a general meaning of a ground in the context of the 10 grounds. And each of the 10 grounds is distinguished by different factors, such as the ability to abandon subtler levels of obscuration. So that's the main way in which you move from one ground to the next, is when your wisdom realizing emptiness, becomes powerful enough to abandon, to eliminate the next level of obscurations. And also another feature of each ground, on each ground, the Bodhisattva attains a surpassing practice of one of the 10 perfections. So usually we hear about 6 perfections, but there's a list of 10, although it said that the last 4 can be subsumed in the 6th. Well, the next slide has the details about that. And then, yeah, the last bullet point says, just to move from one ground to the next, a bodhisattva must perfect certain complete trainings and overcome certain faults. So the details of that are in the ornament. It goes through all the trainings of each ground and we're not going to go into those details, but just, yeah, that's what it says in the ornament, that bodhisattvas have to do certain trainings on each ground that overcome certain faults, and then they'll be ready to move on to the next one. So the last slide we'll look at today is just a kind of chart that shows the 10 grounds and the perfections, the 10 perfections that a bodhisattva attains a surpassing practice of on each ground. So all 10 perfections are present on each ground, but each ground, the bodhisattva gains a certain special ability with regard to, one of the 10 perfections. So the first ground is attained simultaneous with the path of seeing. I mentioned that before. So when a bodhisattva attains that first direct realization of emptiness, having previously had just a conceptual realization of emptiness, and then they finally break through and have the direct non-conceptual realization of emptiness. So at that moment they attain the path of seeing, and they simultaneously attain the first ground, which is called the joyous. The reason it's called joyous is because the bodhisattva understands that she's close to enlightenment, and she sees that the welfare of sentient beings will be accomplished soon. So she's very joyous. And then on this ground, the bodhisattva attains a special surpassing practice of generosity. First perfection. So her generosity is particularly powerful on this ground. And then the second ground is the stainless. The reason it's called that is because a second ground bodhisattva doesn't have the slightest stain of corrupted ethics, whether awake or asleep. So even during dreams, they don't have any mistaken ethics. They don't commit any ethical misconduct. And so the perfection that becomes surpassing on this ground is the perfection of ethics. And the third is called luminous. So the third ground bodhisattva is said to satisfy their disciples with the Dharma, and they perform the generosity of illumination of the Dharma. So that's why it's called luminous. They're sharing the Dharma and illuminating the minds of sentient beings with the Dharma. And on this ground, the perfection of patience becomes surpassing. And the fourth ground is called radiant. It said that on this ground there's a special light of exalted wisdom, which is like a fire that can abandon the two kinds of obscurations to be abandoned on that path. It's not clear to me what this light is, if it's coming from their bodies or coming from space or whatever, but anyway, that's what it says in the text. A special light of wisdom. And here the perfection that becomes surpassing is joyous effort. Maybe that has something to do with radiant, because when somebody is very joyful, they have a lot of joyous effort. They're kind of radiant, radiant with joyous effort. And then the fifth is called difficult to overcome. One meaning for that is that a bodhisattva at this level is able to overcome or subdue, rather, very difficult sentient beings that they weren't able to to subdue on the earlier grounds. So certain sentient beings were difficult to deal with, difficult to subdue, difficult to tame. At this point, a bodhisattva gains the ability to even deal with those and subdue them. Here, the bodhisattva attains a surpassing practice of perfection of concentration. Then the sixth ground, sometimes it's translated as approaching or as manifest. It's just different ways of translating the same term. But approaching makes more sense because on this ground, the bodhisattva is contemplating the 12 links of dependent arising in the forward and reverse order. And when they contemplate the forward order, they understand how one approaches cyclic existence. And when they contemplate the reverse order, they understand how one approaches nirvana. That's the etymology of approaching. Here, the perfection of wisdom becomes a surpassing practice. And the seventh ground is gone afar, because the bodhisattva has been following the path for a really long time. And at this point, it said the bodhisattva reaches the end of having to apply coarse exertion. This is the last point where they still need to make coarse exertion, because from the eighth ground onwards, they don't need coarse exertion. They only have subtle exertion. So they've gone very far. And the perfection of skillful means that becomes the surpassing perfection at this point. So one way of explaining that is it's the ability to adapt different ways of behaving and different ways of teaching to suit different kinds of beings with different mentalities. Eighth ground is called immovable because at this point the bodhisattva is no longer moved by coarse exertion. They've gone beyond coarse exertion and they need only subtle exertion in their practice. And the perfection of this point is munlam in Tibetan. It's sometimes translated as prayer or aspiration or resolve. Bodhisattvas make strong, aspirations or resolutions. For example, the King of Prayers expresses the resolutions, aspirations made by the Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. So we can see all these amazing determinations that he makes in that. Ninth is called good intelligence, because here the Bodhisattva has the four individual correct knowledges. These will be explained later in chapter 4, but they're actually qualities of a Buddha. But the Bodhisattva in the ninth ground is attaining a special power of those. And the perfection of power at this point, power is the strength to not be overcome by afflictions and other obscurations. That's that particular perfection. The 10th ground, so this is the last stage of being a bodhisattva before enlightenment. It's called the cloud of Dharma. Just as rain falling from clouds causes crops to grow, so likewise from the cloud-like excellent qualities of a bodhisattva, the rain of Dharma will fall and cause the excellent qualities of trainees to develop. And the last perfection is called exalted wisdom. It's yeshi, as opposed to sherab, which is the 6th perfection. So yeshi is sometimes translated as exalted wisdom or pristine wisdom or transcendental wisdom. And so one explanation is that this wisdom is the wisdom that knows all phenomena, all conventional truths, whereas the 6th perfection is explained as knowing ultimate truths, the ultimate nature of things. Yeah, because this is right before Buddhahood, where a Buddha is able to know all phenomena simultaneously. So all conventional phenomena, conventional truths, as well as their ultimate truth, emptiness. So it makes sense that that particular wisdom becomes powerful at that point. So we'll stop here. And I might, yeah, as only as has already started teaching, but anyway, some of you might like to switch over and watch that. Any questions before we finish?
Excuse me, Venerable.
Yes.
I've been watching or not watching. I have His Holiness on my iPad. He hasn't started teaching yet. He's still in the preparation phase with lots of mantras going on.
Okay, thank you. So there's still time to catch some of his teachings. Okay, so if you do have questions, you can send them in, and I'll try to answer them next time. So let's finish by dedicating the merit, the positive energy we've generated from this session tonight, looking at these teachings with positive motivation and altruistic motivation to reach enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. So let's share this merit with all living beings, that it may help all of us get closer to enlightenment, and also for our teachers, our precious teachers, to live very long lives. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel Bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. Incomparably kind and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish-fulfilling, wish-granting jewel, source of every benefit and happiness in this world, may you have a long life and all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the three sublime ones, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please live long. Thank you. Thank you. See you next week.